Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Pits of Motorcast. In a minute or two, I'll have Nitro Funny Car driver Chris King on the line with me. So let me call him up right now. We'll get Chris on the air.
Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, Chris, you're live on the air. So we're live on the air with Chris King, Nitro Funny Car driver. How's it going, Chris?
Good, how are you, Dave? Phone's a little broken up, so I may have a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, well, welcome to this podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you reaching out and taking the time to talk to me. Any little bit helps. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I love, promoting all you guys, the best I can anyways.
Hey, every little bit helps, man. We're all out there trying to fight for the bragging rights in the media, and like I said, anything we can do to help promote the sport, help promote us, and get your name out there as well, Dave. Your site's pretty cool. A lot of people are following it, so glad to help.
So now this year in 2020, you're going to be driving for Michael Harrigan in the Nostalgia Funny Car The Fool's Gold, huh?
Yeah, he reached out to me a couple months back and asked me if I was interested in driving for him. And at first, I wasn't sure what was going on for 2020 because I'm still, working every day trying to find a big show nitro ride. But so far, things haven't quite panned out. So Mike and I decided it'd be a good idea to get a little more seat time, some more experience, and go out and race some fun races with the Funny Car Chaos Series in his car. Only bad thing is both of us are a little tight on money, so we're a very low-budget team. So we'll go out there, do what we can, try to find some associate sponsors, have some fun, and make some laps.
So how many Funny Car Chaos events are you looking to run?
Mike would like to do all 8 of them if we can afford to. With my schedule at the firehouse and with some family obligations, it's going to be a little tough to do all 8, but we're going to try to do them. We'll see what happens. Again, I got some irons in the fire with a big show, so there might be some possibilities. You'll see me out there making my debut in NHRA.
Yeah, well, that's what we need, more funny cars in the NHRA. There's too many top fuel dragsters as it is.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of up-and-comers in the dragster category. It's just so expensive and so hard to do. It takes the right people, the right partners, and I know we got a great marketing package and a good thing to present. We just have to find somebody that wants to help support it for a little bit of money, give us a shot to go out there, and we'll turn some heads.
Yeah, there's a lot of underdogs out there.
Yeah, it's one of those sports. Obviously it's hard to compete with the big mega $1 million teams that have endless budgets, but drag racing is all about luck. There's a million ways to lose and only one way to win. Hopefully luck's on your side and get some rounds, and even the underdog can pull it off once in a while.
Yep. So now, let me go back in time with you and ask you, how did you get into drag racing?
So, well, I grew up in Racine, Wisconsin, and it was about 20 minutes away from Great Lakes Dragway in Union Grove. And when we were kids, we'd go out there for the Labor Day and the 4th of July and the Memorial Day spectaculars that Broadway Bob would put on. One hell of a show. He was a great promoter. And you'd have nitro cars, jet cars, they'd have monster trucks, they'd have all kinds of different things. They had the Robosaurus, Transformers, just one big show, and people would, go out there and spend the evening watching some good racing. So with that being in our backyard, we'd spend a lot of time at Great Lakes. Andy Bull and I went to high school together and got into hot rodding, and we've always kind of been competitive with each other and worked together on racing, but we'd take our street cars out there and run hot laps and just kind of got into racing through that way. I mean, I started racing motocross when I was a kid, so I've always been competitive, but when I was about 16 and got my driver's license, we kind of moved everything towards cars and progressed, took a little time off, wife and kids and married life and all that, but me and Andy got back together and started racing his car and got the alcohol car going, did real well, and I got the bug to start driving. So I went out and licensed with Frank Hawley, got my license in Super Comp, and also alcohol funny car, and then from that, I knew I wanted to go big show racing. So I did what I could, put a second mortgage on my house, and saved up the money. And I licensed with Paul Richards Racings in a big show funny car, and been working nonstop, tirelessly, pretty much every day, trying to find a sponsor to get out there and make my debut and race with the big boys. So kind of grew up in it, always been a gearhead, love working on cars and automotive stuff, and it's kind of a hobby that I'm hoping to turn into more.
Yeah, Broadway Bob was such an awesome promoter, man.
Yeah, it was amazing what he could do. You know, that track has got a lot of history. I mean, all the big boys ran out there, Force, Prudhomme, you know, anybody who was anybody back in the 80s ran at Great Lakes Dragway. It was pretty much a premier Midwest drag strip.
So how many years has it been since you've been there?
Actually, Andy and I did a couple test passes with his car a couple years back, and I pop in once in a while here and there. I tried hooking up with them to get some fire safety stuff, you know, a little bit more modern and current for their safety team there. They do a lot of events. They have streetcar nationals and no prep stuff going on there. I haven't been there probably in over a year, but they do have a lot of events going on. So anybody in the area looking to catch some drag racing, they do have events going on.
Yeah, I usually go up there and watch the Chicago Wise guys, Pro Mods.
Yeah, those guys are they're pretty tough. They're fast. It's kind of funny too with me living in Chicago now. You know, the Wise Guys series and all that, and Chi-Town Hustler and all that. It'd be kind of cool to tie in some of that stuff to my big show racing.
Yeah, for the, like, you're talking about Memorial Day weekend, Labor Day weekend. Yeah, I miss those big shows, man.
Yeah, they don't really do them. I mean, you go to the races nowadays, and there's good promoters, and I think the only person really doing it like Broadway Bob used to do it is Bill Bader out at Summit Motorsports Park. He puts on one hell of a show, gets the people in the stands. I mean, I remember going out with Andy, and you know, we'd be racing a divisional race there, and there's 20,000 people in the stands, pretty much a sellout, and, you know, fireworks and all kinds of jet cars, and just amazing for an alcohol race. And then the Night of Fire is an amazing race. And then when NHRA is in town for the big show, the place sells out, and he just does a great job marketing that track, getting people in the stands. And who can't pass up the dollar ice cream? You know, that's one of the perks of going to Norwalk.
Yeah, they like Great Lakes these days. You get hardly any nitro cars anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. It's expensive. You know, you want to go fast, you got to have big bucks.
Like for years and years, it's been Doc Holliday and Baz Young, but Baz went back to Australia, so Doc has no one. I don't know if Randy Henning's gonna have anyone in the match race with Doc this year in a funny car or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Baz was a big name, and, you know, Jason Greenwood, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he does a lot of stuff too, and he's up in this area. You know, there's a bunch of guys doing it, and Funny Car Chaos is actually gaining a lot of popularity, and they got such a big variety of cars. I mean, they got the nostalgia car like I'm driving, which is a 72, I think, Duster body on there, and then you got alcohol cars, and you have versions of older big show cars running, and, you know, everybody's got a different thing to offer, and these cars are actually pretty fun to drive, and they're very competitive. They're running, you know, anywhere 3.5 to 3.8 seconds in the eighth mile at, you know, 250 plus mile an hour. So these cars are they're fun, they're exciting. Hopefully the series gets a little bit more exposure, and I think the guys who are promoting it are doing a good job with that. So we'll see what it does. You know, I'm looking forward to being part of it and see what it's all about. I'm so programmed to NHRA because that's all I've done for the last 15 plus years. But it'll be interesting to see, and hopefully this will lead to some more exposure, and I can get back out there and make my pro debut.
Yeah, I've seen Jason Greenwood and his dragster plenty of times at the Grove.
Yeah, it's a cool car. And he runs it pretty well.
Then Tim Cullinan and Jimmy Young and Diamond Dave, all them guys.
Yep. It's all the same guys that you grew up watching. The big names, the local guys.
No, it'd be real cool. It would be real cool to see the Fool's Gold go against Doc Holliday's Telstar at the Grove.
Yeah, you know, anything's possible. You know, if there's any chance for match racing, or if the Grove wants to put up a little bit of purse money, make it worth the while to bring the car up. Mike's based out of Palm Beach, Florida, so just getting up here for him is a little bit of an expense. But if it's worth his while, I'm sure he'd be down and interested. Mike loves racing and wants to do a lot more, but again, with no sponsors and pretty much everything coming out of our own pockets, it's limiting and hard to do.
Yeah, then the match with a legend like Doc Holliday, that would be awesome.
Yeah, the publicity would be great. The experience would be great. Just even staging next to a guy like that and say, hey, I get the goosebumps right now just thinking about it. You stage against a guy like that, to me, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Doc's raced with all the best of them. Like we said back in the day when everybody used to be at the Grove, Doc Holliday was right in there with those guys.
Yeah, it's really cool. The whole sport. That's what I love about drag racing. It's like everybody involved is good people. It's a family. They'll do whatever they can to help you. But when you strap the helmet on, then they become your enemy and they want to kill you. But for the most part, everybody's real good. They treat each other well, and it's kind of like an extended family. That's very similar to the fire department for me. The firefighters got each other's backs, and they're there for each other. It's kind of a big brotherhood. It's the same thing in the racing world. Everybody's addicted. Everybody wants to do well, and everybody wants to help as much as they can until it comes to sponsors or racing. Then they want to cut your legs out.
Yeah, it's good. Then you got like Joey Haas going in the Top Fuel Dragster this year.
Yeah, that's a big deal. A lot of publicity behind Joey. He ran good for his licensing. I kept tabs on it this weekend, watching a couple of the runs on the internet. It looks pretty good. It's cool. It's nice to see a lot of these guys coming out. I mean, look at what Alex Milodinovich did out in Pomona. Underdog. Him and his brother built his motors. He's out there. He qualified for the show, raced, very emotional. It meant a lot to him. And, all of us low-budget racers that are trying to make a name for ourselves feel that way. So it's exciting to see guys actually doing it. I'm keeping my fingers crossed really, really, really tightly and working every day that I can maybe get that shot too and say that I did it.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be awesome if you could get in there.
Yeah, I got some irons in the fire. Nothing's panning out quite yet, but it's getting close. We're working with a couple different people. Hopefully it'll work out, I've talked to Chip Lofton with Strutmasters. He's on Richards cars this year, and I might possibly be able to get into a second Richards car for a couple races. If not, I've worked with Robert Schwab Racing, and Robert's doing work for Jim Head this year, but Robert and I would like to put a team together. He's got a beautiful, funny car in the barn just sitting waiting for some money to come. Otherwise, the Richards boys have their second car that I could probably work a deal out. And Timmy Wilkerson's got a second car that he picked up back from Blake Alexander. And Tim and I have talked on and off about possibly running his car if the money was there. So, there's options out there for me, but I just need to find the financing and things. I've been working with Fire Aid for a while as a fireman. I represent them and do a lot for them on the side. And we're really supporting their foundation, the Ronnie Thames Foundation, so we can do burn prevention for children and also firefighter recognition. And that all ties into my marketing plan for racing. We plan on doing a bunch of firefighter recognition, first responder, public education type things in every town before the races, and hopefully have a midway set up because we have an inflatable fire safety house where the kids can bounce around and learn how to be fire safe. And then we'll do handouts with smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, and possibly sell some products and all raise donations for the foundation so we can continue to do the work, similar to what DSR is doing with MD Anderson Hospital right now and the Infinite Hero stuff on Beckman's car. We don't do that with firefighters.
So now, do you still help out Andy Bow at all anymore?
Yeah, so me and Andy, like I said, we grew up together. We've been friends forever. He's pretty much more of a brother to me than a friend. We do a lot together, even off the racetrack. But last year in Joliet, first race out for him where he crashed his car, that really hit us hard and basically parked the team for the year. So the car was destroyed. Andy was shaken up a little bit and took a while to heal up. But he's focused his attention on his business, and his business is doing really well. And there's a new Murph car being built for him right now. We were hoping to have it back so we could get it together and start racing. But Andy's slowly piecing his car back together, and we'll get back out there. And if he's racing and I'm available, I'm usually with him. We've been racing together for over 15 years, and I'm hoping if he's not racing and I am, he comes and helps me, and we can continue our relationship and race together.
Yeah, I had Andy on the air with me last year.
Yeah, it was a good interview. I listened to it.
I had Ray Drew was on last year.
Yep, Ray had a phenomenal season, winning the division championship, and his tune-up really came around. He did really well last year. Racing, his car's really consistent.
Yeah, I remember watching Ray when he used to run at the Grove, racing in Randy Henning's funny car.
Yeah, back then he was known as Captain Ray.
Yeah.
And he was heavily involved. He actually was part owner of the Grove for a while, and he got out of it. But yeah, another local guy doing well in drag racing.
Yep. Yeah, top alcohol funny car.
Yeah, I mean, those cars are phenomenal. I wish that people would give them the attention they deserve, because honestly, top alcohol funny car racing is probably the best racing in the series. It's more competitive. The cars are hauling ass. They're difficult to drive. They're difficult to stage. The guys are busting their butts, working on them in between rounds, and it truly is great racing. I mean, everybody loves Nitro, 11,000 horsepower, and the thunder and the sound. But, I mean, realistically, when you're revving a car up to 7,000 RPM trying to hold the clutch and bump it in, and that thing takes off, it's a handful. It really is. I would say the alcohol car is probably the most difficult car to drive. The Nitro car is an animal all itself, and it reacts different, and it gets away from you very, very quickly. But the alcohol car, there's so much going on, you really have to be a hell of a driver to be able to drive one of those.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of fast alcohol cars out there.
Oh yeah, I can't believe how fast the class has gotten. I mean, back in the day, when Andy and I were racing together, we would celebrate milestones. We were a 570s car, and if we got into a 560s, we'd celebrate. And I don't drink, and Andy had always been trying to get me to drink my whole life, so we would make little side bets. If your car runs a 60, I'll have a beer with you. So the car went 60, had a beer with Andy, we celebrate, he's happy as shit. But then we started running consistent 60s. We're like, well, now we got to up the stakes. Now, every time we run a 50, we'll have a beer, So now the car's running consistent 50s. Oh, now we got to run a 40. And if you look at the class, everybody's running consistent 40s now. Annie Whiteley, hauling ass. Doug Gordon, I mean, look at the underdog. Arian Raishon won Pomona, The class is so unpredictable, and there's so many good guys. Rick Jackson with Shane Westerfield, power team. Those guys are phenomenal. We got Johnny Lindbergh tuning for Brian Hall. It's unbelievable, the talent, the speed, and the guys out there, It's a great class.
Yeah, then with Funny Car Chaos, you see the, alcohol cars in like Kenny Singleton. He's been dominating the Funny Car Chaos.
Yep. I think he won the championship last year, if I recall.
Yeah.
I didn't really follow it too much, but I think he did.
Yeah, he won most of the events during the year.
Well, hopefully this year we'll change that.
Yep.
Hopefully I can cut a good light, and hopefully we can lean on the car a little bit without hurting it and get some good performance out of it. Unfortunately, being a low-budget racer, you can't really tune the motor and lean on it without hurting parts. So when you're trying to conserve parts, the tune-up's got to be a little weak. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I know Mike got a little bit of taste of chaos last year with the Fool's Gold car.
Yeah, he seems pretty interested and into it. Like I said, he loves the car. He loves racing, and he would like to do more. But unfortunately, money is the problem, for everybody. If we had more money, we'd go out and race more and do a lot of cool things. But you can only do so much.
Yeah. So now, Chris, who are some of your biggest inspirations when you're growing up as far as drag racing?
So growing up, of course, I grew up in the 80s watching racing, So John Force, Ed McCullough, you had all the big names, Don Garlits, Shirley Muldowney, you'd watch all this stuff go on, even Eddie Hill back in the day, the Super Shops car. You watched all of them, Doug Herbert, everybody was huge. Joe Amato, Warren Johnson, it's just all the legends of back in the day. It was the powerhouse of drag racing. We would watch it on Diamond P Sports. We would watch it in shop class in high school because our shop teacher, Dave Dixon, was a big gearhead, had a couple drag cars. And honestly, I think that experience alone in my life is probably what really pushed me into drag racing. We went to school at Park High School, Andy and I. In freshman year, we were in two different shop classes. I think he was the morning, I was the afternoon class, whatever it may be. But our teacher had a Vega, and he would race it at Great Lakes, and we'd come in there and see this car. We'd get to wipe it down and clean it, and occasionally do a little bit of work on it. Then he bought an old pro stock car and was running it out at Great Lakes, and we would get to work on that, and he let us bring our hot rods in. And Andy built a 440 CUDA, and I was working on my 89 Mustang, which I still have, and hopefully I'll have running in spring. My son and I are rebuilding it. But, we would get all this exposure to things in shop class and learn so much because of that teacher, Dave Dixon. And I think even for Andy, it sparked his interest, even though his dad was racing, but it made Andy who he is, it made me who I am, and it brought me and him together, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now when you got your Nitro Funny Car license, where did you license at?
So I did a couple different places. I licensed with Paul Richards Racing and had Paul Smith as my tuner. We first started in North Carolina at Charlotte on a Monday after the Nationals, and we were able to do 2 passes, and the fuel system wasn't quite right. We went out and ran decent, so I did get 2 runs that qualified, but it was mixing up cylinders and dropped a couple holes. So, we decided that the rest of the day they were just going to try to fix their stuff instead of beating up on the equipment. So I got 2 passes in Charlotte, and then we finished up my licensing down in Palm Beach at PBR, Palm Beach International, and went down there, hopped in the car as an exhibition run, and made a hell of a pass right off the trailer. I think it went like 420 or 424 or something like that, and the prep wasn't really the best, and it worked out. So we went down there and finished up and got my Nitro license out of it. And talk about a cool experience. The Paul Richards Racing boys, Paul himself is a great dude. We talk all the time on the phone. His brother Dave, who's the driver, was very helpful. Jack Beckman, I can't thank Jack enough for taking the time to come over to my pit with Andy and tell me what to expect and to reach out and give me his phone number to call him with any questions and kind of coach me during the whole process. So Jack was really cool about it and really made me feel more comfortable being in the car because I was a little nervous about it. But, he talked me down and told me what to expect and what to do, and I value his opinion. He's a hell of a driver. So, and that leads back to what I said earlier, just drag racers as a whole, especially guys like Beckman, great people. They give you the shirt off their back and help you any way they can because they love the sport and want to help people succeed in the sport. It's really cool.
So how was your first time experience jumping in a Nitro Funny Car?
I'm going to be honest, Dave, I was scared shitless. I had driven the alcohol car, and, that thing's an animal. And I've experienced a lot of stupid things in the alcohol car, from blowing the tires off, severe shaking, just uncontrollable cars that you couldn't drive. So I learned a lot about car control from that, and also from watching Andy and learning from Andy. But I got in that Nitro car and was strapped in. I'm like, yeah, I got this. But the minute they fired that thing up and it starts shaking and thundering around, I'm like, holy shit, yeah. I'm about to do this. So I didn't doubt that I could do it, but I didn't know what to expect. How hard is it going to hit? How's it going to pull? Everybody says it's going to hit good, but really peggy in the seat as soon as the clutch comes in. So I had a bunch of questions in my head about what was going to happen, And so they close the body down, and I pull up, and I stage the car, turn my air bottle on, I let my foot off the clutch, and I bump it in. The tree comes down, and I just sat there for a minute, took a deep breath, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm not trying to kill no light. I'm just, okay, took that deep breath. All right, here we go. Boom, hit the throttle, and it just went. And I got to tell you, it was the coolest feeling in the world, Dave. I can't even explain what it felt like. I got goosebumps right now and chills thinking about the feeling of the stomping on the loud pedal and that car just taking off. The front end hikes up, pegs you in the seat, and it just goes. And it's so fast. It's unbelievable. It's something I wish everybody could experience.
Now, did you make a full pass on your first run?
No, we went out and we did a planned shut-off, half pass, and it actually went out on me, and it got real loose and made a hard turn to the left. And I kind of like, wow, I suck. You know, I totally blew that. I was expecting Paul Smith to be yelling in my ear, calling me an idiot, and all this and that, but that wasn't the case. The guys came down and got me in the car and said, hey, you did a hell of a job. The wing fell off about 300 feet out. I'm like, holy shit. Well, that would explain why the car moved so hard to the left. The spill plate came off, lost downforce on the side of the car, and it just got away. So I lifted and everything was fine. But for your first pass in a nitro car, that's not something you want to experience because it definitely opens your eyes, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we did a half pass on that first one, and then we came out, and Paul Smith told me, he goes, hey, look, kid, if it feels good, stay in it. If it does something stupid, lift. And that was pretty much his thing. As long as you stayed on top of the car and didn't do anything stupid, Paul pretty much would trust you. And he kind of is a hard guy to be around and talk with. People are intimidated by him because he's a rough personality. But I got to tell you, as being a fireman, I'm used to guys like that. So Paul Smith, that is, get along really well, I think. And I know how to take him, and I don't take it personally. And he does it for a reason, because if he can get in your head or get you to say something stupid under pressure, then he knows you're going to do something stupid under pressure, so he doesn't want to put you in the car because you may hurt yourself or hurt the car. So, you know, he's just doing what he does, and I did what I did, and it worked out.
Mm-hmm. So now the first car you've ever drag raced in was an alcohol funny car?
The first car I had competitively ever raced in competition was an alcohol funny car. Yes, sir. Monte Carlo. Oh, actually, no. I take that back. The first car I raced was an alcohol funny car, but it was John Hart's Dodge Charger. I drove John's car in my first debut alcohol race, and that was a fun ride. It was cool. I like those old Charger bodies. And then from there, we went into a Monte Carlo that Sam Jenkins owned and had help tuning it from Steve Harker. And he had that car running mid to low 60s, so it was a good car, fun car to drive. And then from there, went into the big show car.
So with our car, funny car, what's the quickest pass you've ever made with an alcohol car?
So the best pass we ever had in Sam's car, I believe, was a 563 at like 250 something. I don't remember the mile an hour, but it went 563, and I think that was a best run for that car ever. And that was with Steve Harker and Frank Parker tuning it.
Now, were you pretty successful in that car?
We ran a little bit. Again, I was paying for all that out of my own pocket. So I think we did 4 races together with Sam's car, 1 race with John's car when I first debuted. And again, we qualified for a few races. I got my very first round win in Norwalk against Andy Whiteley in that car, which was really cool. And during qualifying, Andy and I got to line up against each other, and it was the coolest thing because it was 2 red cars, me and my best friend lined up against each other, drag racing at that level. I mean, I couldn't tell you how cool of a feeling that was, and I don't know if Andy felt the same way, but it was really cool lining up next to him at that level of competition. And the funny thing is we have a friend named Christian who's kind of a ball buster that we've known our whole life also, and he had a friendly little wager on that run who would have a better light. And I smoked Andy on the light, and they took a cool picture. My car's out about probably a half bender out in front of Andy's at the time. But by the time that picture was taken, and like a half second later, the car went into violent tire shake, and I had to click it off. And Andy went on and qualified way better than I did. But the picture was cool, and my buddy Christian won some money because I got a better light.
Yeah. Now, when you're out on a track, on a starting line, Chris, for yourself, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions when you're out there?
I don't know if I really have any superstitions. When I get in the car, I go before I even get to the car. I go around and either shake hands or give a hug to all my crew guys. Just a thank you and kind of a tighten group of like family.
Yeah.
And then I get in the car and they strap me in and I kind of just sit there and I start thinking a little bit. I don't really like zone out. And I don't care if people talk to me. Some people get really weird when they're strapped in the car. I just try to relax a little bit and start feeling what's going on and try to relax a little bit. But when you come around the corner and you're facing the lanes or you're one or two pair from starting up, that's when you start thinking a little bit more. You're watching what's going on in front of you, thinking about what you're going to do. And then, they fire up the motor and then it just kind of turns automatic. You go into the routine muscle memory of your procedure for burnouts and all that stuff. And you just do your thing, you go out there and I couldn't even tell you what I do in the car. It'd be nice to have an in-car camera. I could see what I do, but I don't really think I have any set routine except just thanking my guys and, getting in there and trying to relax.
Now, what are some of your favorite tracks?
So my favorite tracks, oh man, facility-wise, I love going to Norwalk just because it's all asphalt in the parking. They got a nice little area for the kids. You got the Dollar ice cream, and it's just a nice facility. And it's not terribly far from Chicago. It's about 6 hours. Of course, probably my favorite is Joliet, just because it's in our backyard now because I live in Chicago. And I go down there a lot and do things. I help Frank Hawley do his class when he comes up at Joliet and spend a lot of time out there. So I like Joliet. Great facility. It's close. I like going to Indy because it's close. But I'd say my absolute favorite races are probably top three. It'd be Norwalk, Charlotte, and Gainesville.
Now, have you ever been to, Martin, Michigan?
Nope. Never been to Martin, Michigan, but that's on the Funny Car Chaos schedule this year. So I should be going there. And what's nice about that is I have a bunch of friends in the Midwest area here with Chicago and Detroit area. And it'll be a nice race that they could potentially come out and see me run. And, my buddy Steve Sanchez, who owns Total Flow Cylinder Heads, he's based right outside of Detroit. And Steve gives me a deal on servicing the head, so we're flying his stickers on our cars, an associate sponsor. So it'd be neat to kind of have Steve come out to a race and represent him in his hometown area and, hopefully strum up some business for him because Lord knows everybody needs help with business.
Now, do you have any preference, like quarter mile or 8 mile racing?
No, I honestly would rather do quarter mile racing or 1,000 foot in the big car just because you're really driving it a little bit longer and, you got to concentrate and make sure your tune-up's right and do everything right. The 8 mile racing is exciting, but it's over so quick, especially how fast these cars are. It's exciting, but then the excitement's over. I like the excitement to be drawn out and kind of get that little more adrenaline rush and go a little bit faster. So I'm partial to the full length 1,000 foot or quarter mile.
Yeah, of course, Funny Car Chaos is going to be all 8 mile.
Yeah, it's an all 8 mile event. And that's nice for the guys, though. They don't have the full-time crews or the big budgets. So the 8 mile runs don't beat the motors up as bad. They're not revving as high. And the maintenance and service is a little bit less in that type of racing. Instead of tearing the motor completely down and doing all kinds of crazy turnarounds, you just check the bearings, reset the clutch, kind of go through it. And if everything looks good, you leave it alone, So stress-wise and work-wise, it's a better situation that way. But, coming from alcohol racing, I like to thrash. I like to come and I like to tear the clutch out and throw bearings in there, possibly pop a couple pistons if you need to, depending on the run, and really work on your tune-up and work on the car. We have a lot of fun doing it when you got good guys. It's fun and exciting.
Now, you already got your fire suit?
Yeah, I have a fire suit that I've been wearing the last couple of years, which was bought by FireAid. So my fire suit has FireAid predominantly on there, red and black. I'm getting my new helmet painted right now. Should have it hopefully by the first race here in March. But it'll be similar to my old helmet, incorporating some flame up the front, the fire department emblem on there, and some cool reds, grays, and blacks. A little bit of gold leaf, so it's going to have a very firefighter motif-ish thing with some cool color. Going to have the number 343 on the side, which is important to firefighters because that's the number of firemen killed on 9/11, and it's also the number that NHRA let me have for competition. So I get to run the number 343 as a memorial and also as my competition number. So it kind of works out for me.
That's pretty cool. All right, now I'm going to ask you some fun questions here now.
Sure.
Now, besides drag racing and being a fireman, you have any other hobbies?
Well, believe it or not, I run a side business where I accidentally invented some firefighter training equipment. So I build and sell firefighter training equipment on the side. It was a hobby, now it's a business. And I also like to remodel and build things. So I do a lot of work on houses, helping family and friends. I used to be a general contractor and do work for pay, but kind of slowed down on that with everything else going on. So, I do that. I like working on cars on the side occasionally. I like to play sports. I play hockey with the firefighter team here in Chicago. We skate on Fridays for fun. I'm a goalie. Grew up doing that. So I like playing hockey. I used to be a drummer. So occasionally I dabble in music here and there. Was in a band. Me and Andy were in bands when we were younger. Made some CDs. It was fun. But I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie. Like sports. So I play what I can and do what I can. Most of my time's tied up right now with work and kids. Though my son plays lacrosse. My daughter plays soccer. With them in school, there's a lot going on.
Now, do your kids get into drag racing?
They've been around the sport a long time, and they like watching it. They like it more when I'm driving, but they used to go to the races when they were really little, and there's a lot of downtime, so they would get bored, so they'd play on their phones, or we had to have movies playing in the hauler or some type of entertainment for them. So, they kind of grew up numb to it because they've been around it so much. It's not as cool to them as it is as normal kids. And it's the same thing with the fire department. My kids have been around it their whole lives. So when they come to the firehouse, they're like, yeah, cool, we're at Dad's work, whoopee. But if they bring a friend, their friend is in seventh heaven, like, wow, a fire truck, that's so cool. You're so lucky. And my kids are like,
Yeah.
We've seen it, been there, done it, They're kind of numb to it.
Right.
Which is good in a way, but it's kind of like, I guess they've been exposed to so many cool things, they don't know the opportunities or what they've been exposed to. When their friends see it, it's a completely different world. But my son's 17 now, and he's getting into cars. He's helping me build the Mustang, so he's learning and liking cars more and more every day, and teaching him how to use tools. So hopefully he'll fall into some type of automotive and hobbyist, or if he ever wants to race, I'd be more than willing to let him go drive a car. I strongly recommend anybody in the world that has the opportunity, go drive one of Frank Hawley's race cars. Either the Super Gas car, the Super Comp Dragster, which is a blast. It's a couple $100. You can do a run down a quarter mile at 180 miles an hour. It costs you $300.
All right, now, Chris, what is your favorite food to eat?
My favorite food? Oh, man, I like all kinds of stuff. I would say my absolute favorite food would have to be seafood. I like lobster and crab legs and shrimp. I do a lot of cooking at the firehouse, but we don't eat like that at the firehouse except on rare occasions. So being in Chicago, it's amazing. There's so much good food. We're notorious for Italian beef, hot dogs, and deep dish pizza. I love deep dish pizza, and I love steak and lobster just like anybody else does. The food we probably eat the most, and Andy probably is on the same boat as this because me and him go together, we eat more Mexican than anything. Every town we go to when we're racing, we hit a Mexican restaurant. If me and him go to lunch together, it's a Mexican restaurant. My son's favorite place, a Mexican restaurant. So I like my steak burritos too. So it's a tough one.
Now, do you do any cooking at all?
Oh, yeah. I grew up in kind of a weird situation. My dad died when I was really young, and my mom had to work, so I kind of fended for myself a lot and learned how to cook when I was little. And then becoming a fireman, of course, we got to cook our meals, and we rotate cooks kind of at the firehouse. So I ended up learning how to cook pretty well, and sometimes for big crowds. The house that I'm assigned to right now, we have 22 guys every day. So when you make a meal, you're making a feast. So I learned how to cook and got a pretty good menu. The guys at work like what I make, and I think I can hold my own.
So what do you consider your best dish to cook?
I think my favorite dish to cook is my patented chicken lasagna. I do a grilled chicken lasagna that nobody else really does, and every time I mention it to somebody, they give me the weird look like, chicken lasagna, what the hell? But it's really good. I grill the chicken and put Italian seasoning on there, and I build my lasagna, spice the sauce up a little bit with oregano, and I use a lot of mozzarella, a lot of sauce, and layer it up and put the grilled chicken in between there and bake it. It turns out phenomenal.
That sounds good, man.
It's awesome.
Now, what's your favorite beverage to drink?
My favorite beverage is probably Arnold Palmer, iced tea and lemonade mix. I don't really drink pop a whole lot. Don't do a whole lot of the carbonated stuff. If I do, it's an occasional root beer or a Dr. Pepper, but it's really rare that I have a soda. I drink tons of water, and I drink Arnold Palmer. That's pretty much it.
What's your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, my favorite movie of all time? It's got to be the Star Wars series. I grew up a Star Wars nerd when I was a kid. The best Star Wars movie to me is Empire Strikes Back. But I'm also a huge fan of movies like Hunt for Red October and U-571, like old World War II movies. I really like stuff like that about like submarines and things like that. I think they're great movies.
Favorite music?
My favorite music, I have a very eclectic taste in music, but my favorite would have to be rock to heavy metal. I do a lot of Avenged Sevenfold, Slipknot, Pantera when I was younger, but I also like going the complete extreme opposite, and I love my good old country. Dierks Bentley, George Strait, good old country, not this new pop country stuff. I like good old country, Tim McGraw, George Strait, Joe Diffie, that kind of stuff for the old country. But I listen to a lot of different stuff, like I said, ranging from country to rock to old rock and roll to new rock and roll and heavy metal. The only thing I really don't get into, I'm not a big fan of like hip hop or rap.
Now you said you jam with Andy. What instrument you play?
So Andy also was a drummer, and I was a drummer. So when we were in the band with our friends from school, I was the drummer, and Andy come in and hammer on the drums once in a while too. And then they started a side band for fun where they just play bars and have fun. And Andy was the drummer, and I didn't play in that one. I just go and watch them. But it's fun. We're both kind of drummers, and kind of do our best at hacking around on the drum kit and playing music. It's all for fun, but it was good times.
Now, what was your favorite cartoon growing up as a kid?
My favorite cartoon growing up as a kid, I love cartoons still to this day. I watch them every day. I liked Flintstones and the Jetsons growing up. Probably my favorite cartoon, I'd say, was the Flintstones, closely followed by the Jetsons. Like right now on the TV screen behind me, South Park's on.
Now, what's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve? Ooh, I got to kind of watch it on this one. My biggest pet peeve, there's so many of them, Dave, honestly. What my biggest pet peeve, I would think, would be probably people that don't appreciate help or don't reciprocate, the people that just take, but don't give back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because, like, in my line of work, we help people, we do things, and even off of work, I'm always there to help people. If someone's got a problem, I try to help them. And it's very rare that I ask for help, but when I do, it's hard because a lot of those people that I help out don't help me back out in return.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do the interview.
Hey, thank you for having me, Dave. Again, like I said, the PR is important. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm actually honored that you reached out and wanted to talk to me.
I wish you the best of luck in the Fool's Gold Funny Car this year.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You have any final words?
No, like I said, I just want to thank you for that, and hopefully people out there listening spread the word. We're looking for help. We want to go out and race, and I'll drive anything that's got four wheels. I wouldn't put it past it. You know, the old movie Stroker Ace where Burt Reynolds dressed up as a chicken in his fire suit to run a car. I'll wear a chicken suit. I don't care. I just want to go out and race and have fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks again.